917 47th Avenue North, St. Petersburg.
Great. And your name is?
Wanda Schwerer.
And when is your birthday?
October 5, 1949.
And your address?
517 Belle Isle Avenue, Bel Air Beach, Florida.
Okay. And what branch of the service were you in?
U.S. Air Force.
Okay. And what rank were you when you separated?
E4.
Okie doke. And where did you serve?
I entered the Air Force in October of 1971. Spent my basic training at Lackland Air Force Base, then was immediately sent to Rantoul Air Force Base in Illinois for 6 months. And from there, I went to Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, and that's where I stayed.
Okay. So you enlisted, I take it?
Enlisted, yes.
Okay. Where were you living at the time?
Houston, Texas.
What were you doing before you went in the service?
I had been working in secretarial jobs from high school on.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school?
M.B. Smiley High School, Houston.
Okay. And how long after you graduated from high school did you go into the Air Force?
3 years.
Okay. And you didn't have to go far to get to Lackland Air Force Base, did you?
No.
Did you?
No. It was way too close.
Right. Okay. So when you, so I guess you were recruited right there at an office, and then did you take the bus to the base, or how did you get there?
They flew us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So why did you join?
I had not taken college prep classes in high school.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, most of my friends that did were going into either nursing or teaching.
Right.
I refused to do either one of them. So I took vocational education and immediately went out and had 4 different secretarial jobs.
Right.
Realized I hated it, and if I wanted to do anything else, I better get a degree. And the only way I was going to pay for college was Uncle Sugar.
Okay. Okay. Why did you choose the Air Force?
Both of my brothers were Air Force.
Okay.
And since I was the baby of the family, it was like, well, if they can do that, I can do it. In order to get the tuition for college, I figured I needed the GI Bill.
Right.
And I joined the Air Force because both of my brothers were Air Force, and I was very competitive. I entered the Air Force with a guarantee of weather observer training, because that's what my brother did.
Okay.
And then I got to Rantoul, and they told us immediately when we started classes that the top 10% of the students would be allowed to apply for Ray-Winson training. My brother was Ray-Winson.
What is that training?
Ray-Winson, that was the weather balloons.
Oh, okay.
And you had to be top 10% of the class in order to even apply for that training.
And the other thing that I didn't understand was you said Grand Tool when you got to...
Rantoul.
Rantoul, what is that?
Rantoul Air Force Base.
Where's that?
Central Illinois.
Okay.
30 miles from Champaign-Urbana.
Okay.
So, so by the end of the 6 months training, when almost all of the top 10% of my class were women,
Right.
they said, nah, you're girls, you can't do that. Why not? Because you've got to be able to lift these hydrogen tanks. Let me try. No, you can't. You can't even try. Needless to say, I got a little radicalized.
Right.
I was not much of a feminist or equal rights or anything until I went into the Air Force. And after Rantoul, I came out a radical.
Okay, so cause and effect, right?
Yeah, it's what you see and how you react to it.
Right. Okay. So tell me about basic training.
Basic training was a bit of a disappointment.
Why is that?
I went in expecting to be physically challenged,
Right.
With basic training, and we did a lot of marching. No big deal. But the rest of the time we spent in classrooms learning how to put on makeup.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
because you might have to be a stewardess on one of the general's planes, and you need to look good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted that M16 training, but nope, they wouldn't even let us near it.
Well, as a matter of fact, just to share, I mean, I didn't get M16 training until I got orders to go overseas.
Mm.
So, and I was in the Air Force, and besides the marching and the 1.5 mile run, PT was really left up to us as individuals.
Mm.
If you weren't overweight, they didn't even put you on a particular diet. At chow time, if you could go back and eat, you can have all you wanted to eat. So I always thought of the Air Force as being more, and so as other branches, less physical and more mental.
The chair force, yeah.
So what year did you go in?
I joined in 71.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I didn't go in until 78, but anyway, same. That's how it was.
Yeah.
I use the gym a lot, but that's about me. It's not about you. Okay. So, do you remember your instructors in basic training?
A little bit. I don't remember their names.
Okay. How did you get along with them?
Fine.
Good.
They were kind of weird, but yeah, we got along fine. I guess the only problem we ever had with them, my particular dormitory, I guess you'd say, we had 3 bomb threats in the 6 weeks I was there.
Really?
Yes. And so you have to evacuate the barracks, and you grabbed a blanket and you curled up along the side of the road while they checked out the barracks. And when they went through at about 2 o'clock in the morning and realized that all the beds were made and everybody was sleeping on the floor, we got in trouble. That way, when you got up in the morning, the bed was made. You didn't have to make it. I don't think anybody was sleeping in the beds. We were all sleeping on the floor.
Right.
Yes, we got into a lot of trouble for that.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other thing about basic training, I figured out pretty quickly, because our uniforms were not very expressive, and it was cool enough. You could put on a sweater. You walk around Lackland, and everybody'd salute you. They had no clue what your rank was. So we pulled off a lot of pranks that way.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All those little skinheads running around there thought we were big deals. So.
Right. I got you. Good job. Okay, so after the disappointment with the AFSC, I guess, what happened after that?
Well, I've still got through the weather training. I did do something really stupid just before the end. Those of us, if you're far enough ahead in the class, you could fast track out. So 2 weeks before everybody else had to take the final exam, you could take the final exam 2 weeks ahead of time and get your orders and go. The Monday after Easter was when my exam started. A friend of mine from Houston came up to me at Chow on Friday and said, "Let's go to Houston this weekend." So we did. We drove from Rantoul, Illinois to Houston for the weekend. And when we're driving back on Sunday, he fell asleep and wouldn't wake up. I ended up driving all the way back, pulling up behind my barracks at 5 minutes till 6. Formation was 6 o'clock. I had not slept in like 30 hours at this point.
Okay.
So we go into this exam. There's like 6 of us and the drafting tables and all this stuff. They said, "Okay, you can start now. And here's, it's all in front of you." I sign my name and fall asleep. They finally wake me up 6 hours later and say, "We're done." So they canceled my first orders. I never did find out where I was going.
Right.
They put me in the base weather station for 2 weeks. I didn't have to go back to class, but I did have to take the exam again. And they said, "Here's your new orders," which was Air Force Global Weather Central, which everybody called the Map Factory. And those were considered to be punishment orders.
And you never fell asleep again, and you haven't slept since then.
Oh, I can sleep anywhere, anytime. Sleeping has never been a problem for me.
So-
But Offutt turned out to be good for me.
Okay.
That was a good assignment
In Nebraska.
in Nebraska.
How long was the tour?
It was the rest of my assignment there for, what was it, 3.5 years.
Okay.
I
And-
got there and they figured out I could type. So instead of being part of the map factory, they made me a computer operator.
Oh, okay.
And a year after that, they made me a computer programmer.
Okay.
And that's what I've done ever since.
Really? Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. So you did that for 4 years. You were a computer operator.
Computer operator and programmer, yeah.
Okay. So where'd you go when you went on leave?
I got married while I was there.
Okay.
Yeah, met my husband there. When we went on leave, he was from Chicago, so we'd go to Chicago.
Okay. All right. That's what you did when you leave. Okay. Did anybody get hurt, or were there any casualties in your unit that you remember?
I broke my finger on the printer. you know, you're moving pretty fast around there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was about it.
A little accident. Huh? Okay. All right.
I didn't get a Purple Heart for breaking my fingers, but
Okay, and I'm sure you were never a prisoner of war either. Huh?
no.
Okay, so did you get any medals or citations?
The National Defense ribbon that you got for serving during wartime, Good Conduct Medal, and then we had some kind of a unit citation
Okay.
for Global Weather Central.
Okay. How did you stay in touch with your family while you were in the service?
My father died about 6 months after I got to Offutt, and my mother came to live with me to be my dependent.
Oh, okay.
So my family was with me.
Okay, great. How was the food?
Whatever I cooked at home. Again, I was married. I lived off base.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. All right. What'd your husband do?
I met him there. He did the same thing I did.
He was in the Air Force too?
He was in the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He got out. He got out the October after we got married. Worked for Sperry Rand for a while, then came back as a civilian, doing the same thing he had been doing.
GS? Got it. Okay. All right. So, did you use your GI Bill while you were on active duty?
I did.
Oh, you did.
I was taking college classes the whole time.
Really? So, did you get a degree in programming or?
I got a degree in business.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was going to get a degree in computer science, but I couldn't pass calculus. My senior year in college is when you do the interviewing, and I was interviewed by a consulting firm, management consulting firm that was part of an accounting firm, and they were more impressed with the fact that I had actually touched computers and I knew how to program a computer than they were concerned about my degree. So I went to work for them and worked for them for about 19 and a half years.
Who was that?
Arthur Anderson.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. All right. While you were in the service, did we talk, where have you traveled? In and out of the service?
Well, let's see. I thought joining the Air Force I'd get to see some places, right? I saw Lackland Air Force Base, I saw Rental Air Force Base, I saw Offutt Air Force Base. And then after I got out of the service, with Anderson, I traveled to Geneva, Switzerland, spent some time there, traveled to London, spent some time there. And then after I left Anderson and came down here and went to work, I got to travel to Japan, spent some time in Kobe and Kyoto, and the Philippines. So I spent a lot of time in the Philippines.
Really? What do you mean when you say you spent some time? I mean, is that like 3 days, a week, a month?
Sometimes 30 hours, sometimes a week, never on business. I think the longest I was ever really anywhere was probably 2 weeks at a time.
Okay, all right. So your job took you overseas?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. All right. So how did that? I'm just curious. How interesting was that? You know, going overseas and for your work, and interacting with other cultures, and how were you received by these various ethnic groups?
I think I I loved all of it. The only one I ever had any real problems with was Madrid in Spain, mostly because the people in the office there really didn't want me there. I was from headquarters, you know, somebody coming from headquarters telling you what to do. They really don't want to hear it, so they weren't very friendly. But other than that, I really didn't get to see anything of the city there. I think my favorite place was Japan.
Why is that?
Uh, it's a lovely country. Kyoto, particularly the old capital, is just so impressive. Very impressive.
How?
The Shogun Palace, the gardens, the temple. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place.
Really?
And I had tried to learn a little bit of Japanese so that it wouldn't be quite the ugly American.
Right.
But everybody wanted to practice their English, so I never even had a chance to use the 2 or 3 words that I knew. So I did learn, though, that most, particularly the Eastern cultures, you bring gifts. They give gifts and you bring gifts. So when you're already pushing the baggage weight, you know, I have to be careful. You bring a lot of chocolates. Yes.
Okay.
M&Ms and Hershey Kisses were always appreciated.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You like chocolate, American chocolate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever had a Toblerone?
I'm sure I have. Yeah.
Okay.
And see, when I was in Switzerland, I was really anxious to buy some really Swiss chocolate.
Yeah.
And I got there and I realized that everything they were selling, I could buy at Marshall Fields.
Right.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law wanted me to bring back, when I was in Spain, she wanted me to bring back a leather purse. So I walked around and shopped and I looked around and I realized I could buy the very same leather purses on Oak Street at half the price. So I had to come back home before I bought a purse.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to remember. There was a question that I wanted to ask you. Well, anyway. Oh, when you went away for business, did your husband get to go with you?
No.
All right. I'm drawing a blank. Oh, in the 4 year. Oh, here it is. So, as far, in your recollection, in your experience, the treatment that you received, how would you classify, or how did you feel about the way that you were treated as being a woman in the military?
I felt I was very lucky. I happened to have assignments that were very receptive to women, and I didn't have any problems.
So you didn't have any problems? Okay.
I didn't have any
That's
problems.
Good. That's good.
I knew others who did,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't.
Okay. You belong to any veterans organizations?
Well, the Democratic Veterans Caucus,
Okay.
but I haven't joined any of the others.
All right.
I volunteer at the VA.
Okay. What proximity is the VA to here?
It's about 20 minutes from here.
Okay. What do you do there?
I'm a wheelchair escort
How often do you do that?
twice a week, 2 afternoons a week.
Okay. How long have you belonged to the Veterans Caucus?
I was a founding member of the Pinellas County Caucus.
Okay. And what kind of activities do you all do as a group?
Very few at this point. It's such a small group. We're still trying to get enough members where we feel like we can do something effective.
Okay. All right. So, tell me, tell me about the day that your service ended. Where were you? You were in Nebraska, right?
I was still in Nebraska.
So what were you doing? What were you planning? I mean, your husband was a civilian, but he had a GS job.
Right.
Okay, so what were you planning?
I had already signed up for classes, so I knew when my next classes started at University of Nebraska. So.
Okay. So when you got out of the service, you all just stayed there. And for how long?
Another 14 years.
Oh, really? Okay. And where did you what year did you get out?
I got out of the service in 1975.
Okay, so in '89, where'd you go?
Actually, it was '86 when we left. We went to Chicago.
Oh, okay. You stayed up in the north. Okay, so how did you trail down to Florida?
Let's see. In '86, I was transferred with Anderson to the headquarters office in Chicago, and my husband is originally from that area, so he had family in the Chicago area.
Right.
And then my mother died in '86 when we were moving to Chicago. His mother died in '90. His father died in '95, and we had no family left in Chicago area. And at that point, he was doing consulting work, and his major consulting gig had come to an end. And the job that I had at Anderson was no longer fun. And so I told them goodbye.
Oh, really? Okay.
Before my 20 years was up.
Right. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
We're right in the middle.
Okay.
Okay, so, all right, then, so I just have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So how'd you get to Florida? What brought you to Florida?
When we decided we needed to get out of Chicago, my husband's sister lives in the Clearwater area.
Right.
So we said, let's go check it out. So we came and moved in with them for a few weeks and decided to stay.
Okay.
Sold the condos up north and just came on down.
So that's been since 1986?
That was 1997.
Oh,
because we were in Chicago for 11 years.
Okay, so you've been here since '97. All right, last few questions. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
I would say yes.
In what way?
After a number of conversations I had, particularly with some of the officers that I worked with,
Right.
I decided war just makes a lot of money for somebody.
Okay.
You know, I couldn't really. I decided there has to be more basis to it than what I was witnessing. I thought they were particularly. I had a lot of friends in the military who were LGBTQ, and they were terribly mistreated, persecuted, basically, run out. Like, okay, we don't want you here. You cannot serve. You need to get out. I never could figure out why. These were people who were damn good at their jobs.
Right.
Who cares? Why do you care what they do on their own time? Why bother? Just leave them alone, let them do their job. So, like I said, military radicalized me in a number of areas. And I have encouraged a lot of my associates when they have daughters who are looking for, I said they should join the Air Force. I've encouraged it a lot.
Right.
I think it was good for me. I had a friend whose daughter joined the Navy and put in, I think, 4 years in the Navy, and it turned out good for her. So I have encouraged it.
Okay. And last question is, How did your service and experiences affect your life?
Oh, well, it gave me a husband and a career.
So is that a good or bad thing?
I still got the husband, and I
Okay.
retired from the career, so I guess it's a good thing.
Okay. All right.
I keep trying to run him off, but he won't go away for long, so,
All right. Well, do you feel like there's anything else that you need to share with us? Okay. Well, I'm gonna thank you very much for the interview,
Thank you.
and thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, too.